Hey, Monday Movie Club fellow
And
people joining. Nobody else. This week it's Mark's choice, Kill Bill, and he made us watch both parts.
Sorry,
It
not
is
sorry.
the fourth film by Quentin Tarantino. That's what it said on the actual movie. Is it really the fourth one?
Yeah,
Wasn't
well,
there?
technically 4 and 5, I guess, but yeah.
But he counts it as one movie, as did you, obviously.
Yes.
I'm Frank Gaffney. Here with me is Joel. Joel, if you're looking for your glasses, they're on your head.
Oh, I know.
Annie King, Goldfook, and Cringer. Wave hello. There you
I
go.
forgot to.
And Mark Wotitz Gartner, Hattori Hanzo.
Yes.
That was one of the characters, right?
Yes.
Mark, why Kill Bill?
This is my second favorite Tarantino movie. I just love the martial arts, the over-the-top blood and craziness. And the music. Love it.
Okay, well, taken together, Kill Bill is certainly a massive achievement. A more than 4-hour martial arts epic that pays homage to the genre, I assume. Updates it maybe, I don't know.
A lot of throwback to the 70s.
Right, okay. And Volume 1 is a gleeful display of Tarantino's talent for action, character, and dialogue. And Uma Thurman is the bride, an assassin who's left for dead on her wedding day. And after awakening from a 4-year coma, she sets off on a quest for vengeance against the team of killers who conspired against her. And the plot really is little more than a clothesline to hang all of his little spectacular fight sequences, one after the other, including that scene that's right behind Mark there right now, which is a brilliant, dazzling sequence I wrote, in which the bride takes on O-Ren Ishii, played by Lucy Liu, and her mob, the Crazy 88, at a Tokyo restaurant. And of course, each of the Crazy 88 wait their turn to get killed, as they should.
Yes.
Yeah. And he pulls out all the stops. He shoots, it's in color, it's in black and white, slow motion, and there's even an animation sequence, all to create his fast-paced collage of movies. As a bride, Uma Thurman, she's great. And she earned a Golden Globe nomination for each of the movies, but the films were both ignored by the Academy. Ignored. And how fun to see David Carradine. He's still cool.
Yeah.
He's still, what's his name in Kung Fu? I don't know. But I didn't recognize any of the martial arts legends that were also in the movie. I have no idea who any of them are. But if Bruce Lee were alive, I would have known him. All right. Well, so not being a fan of the genre, and I'm sure Mark can get to this, I have no idea how big an homage it was and whether it really is one of the best of the genre. No idea. And knowing nothing, it was pretty brutal for me. Way too long and seriously pointless, but amazing to look at and amazing to watch. And the first part is all violence and all kung fu-y. And the second part is where things slow down and you get more of the backstory of these people and their motivations. And it's more of Quentin Tarantino's spaghetti western-y kind of thing.
She only kills one person in part 2. Bill.
Don't sound so disappointed.
Just saying, after the first one, she kills everyone.
But both of the films are a bit of a mess. Unnecessary sequences, a plot that doesn't really go anywhere. It's pretty basic. And the directorial style is a little more than self-indulgent. And it needs to be re-edited. I'm available. So all the action is not in the first movie and all the melodrama is in the second movie. I feel like we would have cared more about what happens to her if we knew her story before she just started killing people. I say go the more conventional route and then start with the church and her getting killed, and then give us some fights and backstories together. So then we would be more involved. I felt less involved. And
I actually agree with you, Frank. But I feel like Tarantino is just doing Tarantino, and it worked on Pulp Fiction, so I'm going to do it again.
but Pulp Fiction was a very different animal. You did feel for them from the beginning because you were hearing their stories. And so the story, really, the movies for me are very much a case of style over substance, moving from one set piece to another rather than building the story, which it should be memorable, but it actually ended up for me being a little repetitive and slightly dull. I mean, how many sword fights can you watch in 2 hours? Okay, so I mean, obviously we feel bad that the bride was wronged, obviously, but her actions don't really endear her until the second part, like I said. So, and then we meet her daughter and all of that. And then at the very end, there's really no sense of vindication because it's a hollow victory for her. She ended up killing all these people because she had to. And then she felt bad about killing Bill. So, yeah, so nits to pick, this was the biggest annoyance for me, was that every single character talked like Quentin Tarantino. Every single one, regardless of their role in the plot, the amount of screen time, anything, their level of intelligence, every single one had the same, like he was trying to create his own Tarantino speak or something, like his own language. Like anybody could have said that speech and it wouldn't have been any different if somebody else said that speech because it was all the same voice. And the one where he said, Joel, back me up on this. He said that I thought it was interesting when he said Superman is actually is the hero and Clark Kent is his assumed identity and he's the only one. That's not true. There are others, right? Like Thor is Thor, but he has an assumed identity too,
Yeah,
right?
there are others, but usually when that argument gets made, everybody goes right to Superman because he's more iconic than Thor, or at least was when Kill Bill came out.
Yeah. I loved how he said, and really Clark Kent is the costume. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Of course, that is Superman's costume, is Clark Kent.
Yeah. So that was interesting, but not exactly true. And Quentin Tarantino is a bit of a pervert, and he obviously has a foot fetish.
Yeah,
that's a known thing.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's barefoot, and as much as the women are in the forefront of this movie, they all get beat up, brutally beat up. I'm like,
but they're also brutally beating other people up.
Still, it's a ridiculous amount of sadistic violence. I mean, almost cartoonish.
Yes.
Quentin Tarantino is like that creepy kid who is torturing insects with the magnifying glass, and he's making us watch it. That's what it feels like to me. But at least he didn't cast himself and mess up a scene, because that whenever he shows up, I'm like, oh, good Lord. All right. So that's, all right, the barefoot. I wrote on the side, Lucy Liu is barefoot. The band is barefoot. Uma is barefoot. Even David Carradine, you would expect to be barefoot because he's Kung Fu. All right.
Qui-Gon Kane. Kung Fu. That was his name.
John Kane?
Qui-Gon, I think. Kane.
Qui-Gon Kane. All right. I used to watch that show. All right. That show was like The Incredible Hulk, right? He just kept roaming around and finding things to get involved with. All right. So I'm going with 2.5 stars on this one. And that's only because it is Quentin Tarantino. I'm giving him a 0.5 star for being himself. Story is pretty mundane. It got a little repetitive for me, but the visuals are absolutely fantastic. And obviously he knows what to do with a camera, but I definitely needed to be 2 hours and 30 minutes, not 4 hours and 10 minutes. Annie, had you seen this before? This too? No.
No, my first time. And are we rating?
Your last time.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we rating it as one movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I would definitely give a better rating to the first movie as opposed to the second movie, but go ahead.
that's funny. I would give it higher for the second movie as opposed to the first.
Me too.
Yeah, the first was just gory, bloody, and okay, I'm beyond that these days since you make me watch all these things. But I thought that black and white sequence just went on and on and on, and I like started talking because I just lost interest in it. It was just so long. I thought the kung fu was great, you know, it was really beautiful and everything.
Yeah,
And I was
very inventive. It really was.
and I was like, oh, I can see why Mark loves this movie. Sure. It's certainly, you know, right up there. Story was basic and not much to it. So, you know, I don't know why they kept bleeping her name out at the in the first movie.
And then the second movie, they said what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love that part either. If it's supposed to be a big surprise, meh.
Yeah.
Well, it's not only that they're trying to keep her name a secret for a while, but there's the whole thing with Bill keeps referring to her as Kiddo, which is actually her real last name anyway, and you can see her name printed out on the plane tickets in the first movie anyway. So
then what was the point, Joel? Does Beatrix Kiddo mean something?
no, not to my knowledge. So
Wait, was this a trope in some other movie that he just took from another movie?
it might have been, but if it was probably done better in the other movie. So
Agreed.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah. And then I never felt like I got to know Beatrice's backstory of how she came about, you know, in
Well,
this.
that was Kill Bill Volume 3.
Okay. Now I guess I have to watch it when it
No, it doesn't exist.
will
It's gonna.
no, it's
No,
not.
No.
No,
He's
he said.
not- he's not.
Remember, he's only doing one more movie, and it ain't Kill
Yeah.
Bill Volume 3.
No.
He's tried a few times over the years, and he's basically been like, you know what? The first two movies were such a harrowing experience, and I'm tired. I can't do it again. So
I just read something about Zendaya being cast as the little girl coming back for revenge. For
yeah,
killing
that's
mom.
fan fantasies.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would go with a 2.75. I didn't
Right.
hate it. I didn't hate it.
I was worried that you would because there was so much violence, but it's not surprising that you like part two better for me. I understand that.
I didn't hate it either. It just was a little torturously long. Goldfuck, don't you agree?
You didn't hate it, but if it wasn't Tarantino, you would have given it only 2 stars.
2 stars. Yeah,
That's pretty bad.
yeah. But he made it, for lack of a better word, fun.
Yes. And I watched it in 2 sittings, so I didn't sit through it.
Yeah, me
all.
too.
Oh, yeah, we did 2 nights. Absolutely.
I don't think that's what I'm saying. In the hands of some other director, it would not have been as much fun. But he's such a peculiar animal that he puts all of his neuroses and fetishes up on the screen for us to watch. And these are the things he loves. Okay, great. I'm glad somebody gave you $30 million to put your fantasy on the screen. Goldfuck, you're next.
I am a big Tarantino fan. I've seen like 7 of his 10 movies, but I hadn't seen Volume 2 because Volume 1, I was like, I don't like it enough to see the second one. But I'm glad I did now because like you said, Annie, I did like the second one a lot better than the first one. But I love every other movie that I've seen of his, the other 5, 6, I loved. So this is at the bottom of that list. I thought some of the acting was a little overly melodramatic and it was driving me nuts. It killed me how she got into the truck and all of a sudden she had to talk to her toes to get them to move, but she was able to move her legs before. All of a sudden she was paralyzed. She wasn't paralyzed. That drove me crazy.
Also,
it wasn't paralysis as much as she had been
Atrophy, muscle atrophy.
Yeah, but she could
But-
still move her legs.
I don't think she moved her legs. She moved her upper body. But when she woke up, she did an entire crunch standing up, and that you would have no abs after 4 years. So that, and why is she moving her arms but not her legs? I agree.
Yeah, I mean, she couldn't possibly get herself into a wheelchair with two completely dead legs. But anyway, that's a real stupid nit to pick. I get it. I wrote the Lucy Liu anime origin story was unbearable. I was like, this has got to end. I almost hit fast forward. I couldn't take it anymore. It was so long. I wrote some fun script writing, but having women call each other bitch over and over and over, it's just low hanging fruit to me. It's just enough already. And it's not that
And then he called her the C word at the end.
and that doesn't bother me. And the word bitch doesn't bother me. It's just using the same easy word over and over and over. I hate that. And I wrote some fight scenes went on way too long. I'm not a fan of extreme close-ups, and he just loves his, come here, Cringer. Damn it, extreme close-ups, I tried. But I did love when there was a split screen in part 2 between Daryl and Uma. He did a split screen. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Brian De Palma moment, you mean?
That was the one.
You know, no, Mark, normally, right, all of those Kung Fu movies are very much that first movie, right? It's all just fight, 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 fight.
Yeah, usually with much worse dialogue and acting and yeah.
And I knew as I was watching it, Mark, I said, I know exactly why Mark loves this movie. Totally. I loved learning how Daryl Hannah lost her eye. And I loved when Uma ripped her eye out and she was screaming. That was badass. I thought that was great.
Did you have to slip on that? Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Again with
great.
the feet. Again with the feet. Yeah.
Again with the feet. I wrote again, it was way too stylized, enough already with the crazy Quentin Tarantino style. He reminds me a lot of the Coen brothers, where everything just has to be, look at me, hey, look at me, I'm making a movie. I didn't care about her. I liked 2 better. I love the 5-finger explosion. They just do that and the guy dies in 5 steps. I love that.
Or 8.
All right, right. I read that. But I did count, and to me it looked like 5.5. And the only other 2 things I wrote was, you were talking about his incredible amount of gore and violence, and of course that's what he's known for. And I think it was Inglourious Basterds, which I love. Is that the one with Brad Pitt in the mansion?
Christoph Waltz, yes.
That I would just remember the mansion had so much violence in it, and I was like, yeah, I love that stuff. And with that, showing it with absolutely no subtitles. Did anybody else have any subtitles, or was all of the Japanese and Chinese, you had no idea what they were saying? And I thought that was a choice, but I had no subtitles. Anyone?
Well, hold on. When Lucy Liu is talking or whatever, and
Every single time someone spoke Japanese or Chinese, especially when she was talking to the Japanese guy who was talking in fucking Mandarin, there was no subtitles, nothing.
but they explained in English what she was saying, what they were saying when he was teaching her Japanese. When she acted like she didn't know Japanese.
Yeah, I think you need to check your television settings.
Yeah, I thought that too. I thought, no, there has to be subtitles here. But why would I have to turn on the subtitles? They should already be part of the movie if that, you see what I'm saying?
And I did turn on the subtitles just in case, and I couldn't even get closed captioning.
No.
I'll tell you why when we're done with the movie, when we're done with the review.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm thinking the same thing.
And then
Go ahead.
I also read that, the guy who was Japanese, who was talking Chinese, Quentin originally wanted to dub his own voice over it to look like a really bad old, but he didn't. I was like, well, at least I would know what the hell he was saying. So I had to read what he was kind of saying to her. That's all. 2 3/4 stars.
Joel, is this one of your favorite Tarantino movies?
No, it's not one of my favorite Tarantino movies, but again, for me, Tarantino's like the Coen brothers, like Martin Scorsese.
Oh yeah, I would not
always-
miss the crazy thing he came up with this time. No.
Yeah, it's I'll agree. The movie is all right. We're talking about it as if it actually is one movie, which is what it should have been, but the omnibus version that's in existence that very few people have actually seen has some differences to it. So
Oh, I thought they didn't release the whole, whatever it's called, the whole.
the whole bloody affair was shown at Cannes the year that the first part came out, and it was after Cannes that, you know, the rapist pig Harvey Weinstein convinced Tarantino to cut it into 2 films instead of the 1. The Cannes print Tarantino still has, and he occasionally shows it at his I forget the name of the theater he owns out in
Yeah.
California, but he shows it
Yeah,
there.
because I saw on Wikipedia, it had its own page, the whole bloody affair.
Yeah, it gets shown occasionally there, and it sells out whenever he shows it. But it is slightly different than just watching parts 1 and 2 back to back.
Yeah, one of the things I found most annoying was when part 2 started and Uma Thurman talked directly to the camera. I'm like,
Right.
nah.
That
Yeah.
the major things that are different is that does not exist, obviously.
Right.
And the line at the end of part 1 where Bill says, you know, does she know her daughter is still alive, also does not exist in the whole bloody affair. She doesn't find out that her daughter is still alive until the same time we find out that her daughter's still
Right.
alive,
You
which,
didn't need
is
that.
more, you know, shocking and more of a surprise, because we go into the second movie knowing, oh, when's she going to find out when her daughter's still
Right.
alive?
Yeah, but
I
it makes
guess they-
of course, it makes a great cliffhanger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, of
right.
course, and but I think it robs that concept a little
Yeah.
bit. The other big thing is that the fight at the House of the Blue Leaves is all in color. There is no black and white. The reason it was turned into black and white has nothing to do with style. It has to do with censoring. They put it in black and white so that they would avoid an X or NC-17 rating for the film, because the ratings board felt it was way over the top and too violent. So
if you couldn't see the red of the blood, it was less violent.
yeah, they have stupid excuses for everything that they decide. So, but anyway,
They are concerned parents, Joel, concerned parents.
yeah, they are not concerned parents. There's a great documentary about them called "This Movie is Rated X." I think it's called that. I'd have to double check.
Yeah.
But, that tells you pretty much they found out who is on the ratings board, and they're not parents. Or if they are, they were parents at some point many, many years before they were on the board. Anyway, the movie is, you know, taking it as one piece. It is a little long. You know, some of the fight sequences do go on longer than they need to. But you know, I'm not going to fault him for his style. He's emulating, you know, martial arts films that he watched as a kid in the 70s, and the whole film is based on a 2-film series called Lady Snowblood. Been a while since I've seen it. I think that's what it's called.
Isn't it also something about the Revenge of One Eye? Isn't that some 70s actual movie that
Probably, you know, he plucks eyes. He plucks from everything that
Eyes,
he possibly can. You know, which is fine. You know, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So,
Well, I mean, we we appreciate that when it's, you know, pulled into a different being.
sure. And in this case, it's not exactly a different being. I mean, Lady Snowblood is similar plot. You know, woman getting revenge for things done to her wrong by others. So,
Right.
but it's I was originally going to watch it in 2 separate parts viewings, but I realized, oh, I actually have the time to do this now. So I actually watched the whole thing in one sitting. It did not feel like 4 hours. It moved, it kept going. I didn't feel it was dragging at all. You know, it's a fun film. It's not my favorite of his. I don't know that it's his best film. I know some people will argue it that way, but you know, I'll give it 3 stars because it's Quentin Tarantino. So.
And I said 2.5 because it's him.
Sure.
All right, Mark, why is it your second favorite? And I assume Pulp Fiction is number 1.
It is number 1, yes. And I know Joel's favorite is Jackie Brown, which is the 3rd film. So this 2, 3, 4 really were his best for me. I I actually, before I get to my notes, I'll just say that I actually submitted Inglourious Bastards last year, but it got pushed because we did so much other Marvel stuff and this and that. And then when I went to go resubmit, I said, I knew that Inglourious Bastards would go over better with this crowd, but I just got selfish and said, fuck it, this is my choice. I like Kill Bill better, so I'm going to submit this one better. So
Could you move the cameras to the couch a little bit more?
So for me, this may come as a surprise actually, but when the trailer first came out, I hated it. I hated the look of it. I hated her talking to the camera, telling you, you know, I'm going to kill Bill. I hated that she was in Bruce Lee's yellow jumpsuit. That was sacrilege to me. And I refused to watch it. And then Danielle had a Netflix night by herself, and she rented it, which it's very surprising. The part one, obviously. And then the next night she told me to come over and watch it with her because I would love it. So I have to give her credit. She turned me onto the movie, and I did love it, obviously. What else? My one knock on the movie is I think, Frank, you said it, everyone speaks like Tarantino. But for me, that opening sequence with her and Vernita Green, Vivica A. Fox, besides the bitches, it was just also over the dialogue was painful watching it this time. And I was like, it's been a few years. Is the whole movie like this? Because they're going to beat me up on this. And then it got better, much better. But that whole opening sequence.
Well, it certainly was very interesting when the daughter got off the bus and they both were like, "Hi, how are you?" And they said,
Yes.
That
Yeah,
was
no,
a-
agreed.
that was
It
interesting.
wasn't all fine. I loved the gun in the cereal box. I mean, nobody knew that was coming the first time you watch it. But just when they were talking, you know, what I lack in I forget what she even says, but it was just cheesy, I thought. And a few other things I do have problems with. It's not a perfect movie. But I do love Sonny Chiba as Hattori Hanzo, which I know you think I'm not an expert on old Kung Fu movies. I used to watch a little bit, but I was too young. I didn't know who any of the actors. I probably watched Bruce Lee when I was a kid and had no idea who he was, you know? So the character they played, Hattori Hanzo, is based on a series of movies that I believe he did back in the day. And that's why I have,
Huh?
Oh my God, that's great.
I ordered that like 3-4 years ago.
What does it say besides Hattori Hanzo? He doesn't even know.
No. Oh,
Samurai.
it's just really, well, there's
It says other words. there,
samurai
but-
swords.
Right, because he makes the swords.
Yes. But that
No,
whole sequence,
No, it says it was a Japanese TV show.
TV show. Okay, sorry. So there was a series of, I said movies, series of TV show. But that whole sequence with him in there, when she walks in from beginning to end, that is my favorite part of the entire two movies. I love their interaction.
You know, but for me, I kept thinking of John Belushi.
Oh God.
Right.
I know why you're saying that, but anyway. Amy, unlike you, I've seen a lot of the anime, Japanese anime. The origin story of O-Ren, that was so good for me because that is, if you watch anime, which people don't, you know, either you like it or you don't, that is exactly how they are. So
I'm sure it is. And I'm sure people like you who love anime would have loved it. But
Yeah,
I've
it was
never watched anime.
right. So painful for you, but it was a nice tribute for me.
Yeah.
But again, I'm agreeing with Amy because it was too long. It was a little bit of, like Amy said, look at me, I can make anime. And so because they had the ability to do it, was no reason that we needed to see 5 minutes of it.
Fair. But that obviously for me, the whole fight against the crazy idiots, it was not too long. I understand, Annie, why you said that, but for me, this was, and just keep going and going and going. And you can tell, not that Uma Thurman is necessarily bad at it, but when the lights go out and there's like silhouettes, you can tell that it's her stunt double who moves much better than her. And there's a little bit of trivia. The woman who plays her stunt double is a Kiwi, and she plays herself in a future Tarantino movie, Death Proof.
Oh.
Where she has the movie is not, it's one of my least favorite Tarantino's, but she has an incredible car chase scene where she is on the roof, or sorry, the hood of a car, hanging on. And I think a lot of it is shot without any safety harnesses. So she is legit hanging on. It was
Wow.
fantastic. Did everybody catch Gordon Liu and Michael Parks in dual roles?
Yep.
Other than Joel. The guy who plays the captain of the Crazy 88s, who's bald,
Johnny Moe.
Johnny Moe.
Yeah.
Is also Pai Mei, the old Chinese kung fu.
Oh my God, that I did not get.
Yeah, you wouldn't have. I didn't know it until like I watched it 3 times.
And
And
they who would not stop playing with his beard. I was like,
That was
stop
perfect.
it.
But I've seen 6 movies with guys who look just like that with the eyebrows and the beard. It's
Plus,
No.
honestly, if you had a beard that long, you're gonna play with it because it's in the way. It's
seriously.
Right.
And Michael Parks, who has been him and his son played the sheriff who investigated the murder at the church. He was also the 90-year-old pimp in the second movie
yeah.
Oh, I loved him.
in Mexico.
Originally, that was supposed to be Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah.
I could see that.
And he had rich Corinthian leather.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, the first second that we saw him, I looked him up because I thought, oh my God, is this Ricardo Montalban? No, it's not Ricardo Montalban. Who the hell is it? And it said Michael Parks. He
Yeah.
looked so much like him for that 1 second.
Anyway, I could go on and on. For me, it's not a perfect movie, but you know, I've seen it several times now, and I've grown. Just like The Big Lebowski, it is one of those that just grow on me over and over again. So it's 3.5 for me. And thank you for bearing with me for my double movie of violence.
And but I think that's absolutely true that Quentin Tarantino made the movie because he loves these movies, and obviously he found it very difficult to cut any bit of it because
Yeah.
he loves it so much.
Yeah.
And so does Mark.
And
Probably. Sorry.
Mark, don't apologize. This is
I know.
one of those rare cases where it should have been one movie to begin with.
Yeah.
So having us watch both parts together makes sense. It's not like The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, where quite honestly, those films work brilliantly on their own and they lose something, or at least Part 2 loses something when you string it together chronologically. So
No, that's not. It's a great point, Joel. And yeah, I think if they had combined this into a 2.5 hour movie, it would be slightly long, but much, keep the best parts of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see.
And that's why Joel is going to make us watch the 18-hour Showa.
yeah, there is an 18-hour version of Showa.
It isn't? Isn't that what it is?
There are I don't want to call them sequels, but there's companion films he made afterwards. So maybe those would all.
Wait, what was the 18-hour movie you were going to make us watch?
Oh, it's not an 18-hour movie. It's an 8-hour movie called
Devil
Satan
Tango, Satan Tango.
Satan Tango by Bellatar. It's an 8-hour black and white Hungarian movie.
Right,
Oh.
right.
That sounds
And just so
great.
you know, right now it's not on my list for next year. So
Yeah.
Thank God.
Everyone be nice to Joel.
Right.
You can have whatever you want, Joel. Just don't make me want them.
And also, I would have to say that I really, really hate being buried alive scenes. So if there's a movie with that in it, just tell me ahead of time because it gives me such bad claustrophobia. Like I cannot, I had to
Hey,
step out of the room.
I do too, and that truly bothers me as well. I get it. So I'll tell you in the future.
Wait, wasn't
Yeah,
there a
her
whole
clawing
movie?
her way up was ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Vanished,
Wasn't there, what was it?
Vanished with
And who-
Vanished. Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds?
oh, that's a different movie. He had a movie too, yeah, that he was buried alive, but Vanished, I think was Kiefer Sutherland.
Keith Sutherland and Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, somebody was buried alive. I can't.
The Ryan Reynolds movie was really good too.
And I think a very unknown Sandra Bullock was in that.
Yes, that's why I was thinking she was buried alive, but it's Kiefer Sutherland.
Well, she was, but you just never saw it.
Right.
Okay, we can
That-
stop talking about it now
Yeah.
because that's creeping me
Never
out.
watched
Stay
Vanished.
away, stay away from those movies. All right, Kill Bill is not available on any streaming service.
I went to the library.
Oh, how exciting.
I
So
got
did
books.
I. Next week, we're watching the 6th highest ranked movie from 1998 on the Franken list, Wes Anderson's Rushmore. Also not available from your usual subscription streaming services. So you could rent it or go to the library like Annie did. I think that's a good idea. And another director that I will watch any movie he makes, Wes Anderson. I'm Frank Gaffney. Go watch a movie.
I'm also with you.
And Cringer.